So today I'd like to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse guilty verdict, or being found not guilty in shooting and killing two men, killing two white men, and the third person harming them or wounding him. Um, I think that many of us knew, like myself, that for sure they're going to find a not guilty verdict. This is not shocking. In his case, I think for Kyle Rittenhouse, it sends a message. It sends a deep message that I think that a lot of people are not looking at the deeper message that this not guilty verdict is sending. And I will discuss that in a second. And for those who say that, well, if it was a black person who shot somebody, in particular white people, or anybody, black or whites, to self-defense, that person would definitely have been to prison, especially if he was person he shot was white. So this case, I think, is going to be is going to send off a message to many peoples. The first message is going to send is to the white supremacists, because Kyle Rittenhouse, he went across states to do what he did. He went across states. So this is going to send a message to those white supremacists, wherever you want to label them, the white nationalists, Trump supporters, Republican supporters, people who are anti-BLM, people who are anti anything black. This is going to send a message and give them the okay to go across state lines and to provoke and to cause chaos and havoc against those people who are protesting against civil issues against blacks. So this is going to send a message where this ruling is going to give them the okay to do this type of behavior. The next message it sends, which is a deeper message, I believe, for whites, is that they're giving the message to any whites who support black people's and civil rights, black people against systemic racism, is that you are going to get the same type of treatment that black people get. So I think that this not guilty verdict is going to send a message to those white people who have sympathy, those whites who have sympathy for blacks against police brutality, against other things of systemic racism, who wants to preach out or protest these actions against blacks, or these systemic system or police brutality, which is part of systemic racism, is giving them a clear message, is that you're going to get the same treatment that black people get. And if you killed in those protests unjustly, if you are victim by another white person, whether it's from the police or a white vigilante in the name of white supremacist, that your blood is fair game, just as a black's blood is fair game. So I believe that is another message that the court ruling is giving them, because they didn't have any sympathy for the three white men who were victims. There was no sympathy for them. The guy who survived, in my personal opinion, the man who did survive from being shot by Kyle Rittenhouse, in my opinion, humble opinion, he should have shot the bastard. He should have shot him. So he should have shot him. That would have been real good justice. He should have shot him, which he didn't. He had a handgun, and he was still trying to get the gun away from Kyle Rittenhouse. He should have shot him. So, but I believe that the court is showing those white victims, is sending a deep message to them that if you are not with the police, if you're not with the legal system, if you're not with law enforcement, if you're supporting black peoples, if you're supporting black people against systemic racism, that you were a traitor. So this non-guilty, not guilty verdict, it's like the hanging and killing of John Brown. You know, if anybody know the historical history of John Brown, who is a white preacher who was against slavery, and he took it to the next level. It wasn't like the rest of the abolish of slavery. He took it to the next level. John Brown, he fought the white system with arms, him and his son. He fought to free black peoples. It's not like the other white abolitionists who was against slavery. In some sense, some abolitionists who was against slavery didn't even see black people as their equal, but they didn't believe that black people should get this type of treatment in slavery. But John Brown, he took it to the next level where he killed white peoples who was holding black people as slaves, right? And when John Brown was caught, you know, and he was told on by a black person, a coon, who informed him that he was attacking them, when John Brown was captured, him and his sons, and those few blacks, free slaves who were with him, when they caught John Brown, they lynched John Brown in public, right? And historically today, John Brown is considered to be an enemy of the state, right? And they lynched him because John Brown, he killed and he fought white peoples. He understood how the white man think. He fought them the same way that they fight and how they think. He fought them. So they seen him as a traitor historically. So this guilty verdict, this not guilty verdict of Kyle Rittenhouse from killing 2 white men and wounding the third one, for standing up against systemic racism against blacks, police brutality against blacks, they send that message. They send the message that you are a traitor for standing up for these peoples. So what Kyle Rittenhouse did to you, did to them, killing them, it is justice. Him killing you guys is justice. So this is the other message I believe that this court case is giving. This is the impression. The next thing I think about this court case related to Kyle Rittenhouse being found not guilty, and I think it's going to be it's also pertaining to gun rights. So in some form or fashion, I think, you know, white peoples are big with gun rights, and I'm wanting to mention this. But some people would say, this is why you need to have gun restrictions or more red tape on having access to certain type of weapons in the U.S. to prevent these type of crimes. I think this court case also reflected protecting people's gun rights and the rights to defend themselves. And the reason why I'm mentioning it is there. It is in the open. This is very clear. This is one of the issues. But I want to say for those peoples who say that pertaining to restricting or limiting gun rights, and especially with certain type of weapons, in particular for self-defense and these type of issues, or gun laws, or having or clamping down on gun laws, and for those individuals who live in states that have a lot of red tape for buying arms or buying weapons, like in New York State, I would like to answer that with saying, using New York as an example, the only reason why New York City have a lot of restrictions to getting hands on guns, or to limit people getting their hands on guns, is to control the minority population of blacks and Hispanics not being armed legally to what? If they're not armed, that means that they're no threat. They're no threat to the legal system and the white power structure right here in New York City. So when you talk about states that have tighter gun restrictions, more red tape from buying guns, hard to get them, a lot of gun laws and restrictions, that's only to keep the black and the minorities in their place, while by taking away from them getting access to guns. So when you talk about gun restrictions, we can see in the states like New York, where it has a lot of gun restrictions, but there's still a lot of people getting shot and killed. The only reason why the gun restrictions are on there on paper is to get legal weapons out of minority, so they're not a threat to the white power structure in New York. So anywhere you see any states that have a lot of gun restrictions, that's to keep the guns out of minorities, blacks, and where they don't become any form of a threat to that particular government in that state. Like, and I'm only using New York for an example. It might vary from state to state that have restrict gun laws, but I know for New York, the only reason why New York has strict gun laws is to keep legal weapons out of hand of minorities. And that's why you have a lot of cases in a lot of states like this that have a lot of restrictions on guns, but there's still a lot of gun violence. There's still a lot of gun violence. New York is a clear example. They have a lot of red tape to get weapons, but there's a lot of shootings and killings in New York. It has probably the state that has the most strict gun laws. Right? So Kyle Rittenhouse case is also within it, and this is putting emotions aside. You know, some people, some blacks, when they look at this case of Kyle Rittenhouse, they get very emotional. You know, and I think that black peoples, we need to start putting our emotions away, right? We need to put our emotions away and start looking at things from other perspectives. That with Kyle Rittenhouse case, I think that one of the main thing that a white person would see, a white person who would who's an advocate for having gun laws, right? And to them, in their eyes, in this case, is a way for the government, if he was found guilty, that was showing them that, oh, they're trying to restrict gun laws, restrict guns out of hands of citizens, right? In some cases, you put yourself out of the picture, or think about the situation, how a white person who is a Trumpster or whatever, a Republican, somebody who's who want to preserve his gun rights, in their case, in their eyes, they might see this case as a way for the government to restrict gun laws. So I think that this case send a lot of messages, different messages out there. And I'll end this video.